Hey Gemini, we're going to do your weekly reading for the week beginning April 12th and 13th, depending on where you find yourself on the globe. I'm Ali. Welcome to my channel, Indigo Ascension. You can find out a little bit more about the work I do as an intuitive energy healer in the links below to my Facebook and my website. So I've also done your monthly practically soulful reading for April 2020. Now the monthly readings are more focused on those, the whole channel is focused on those who identify as empaths, intuitives and sensitives on an awakening journey. However, the monthlies go a little bit deeper and try and incorporate some deeper soul wisdom, some higher consciousness concepts perhaps, and apply that into the practical. The weeklies, I am trying to make them a lot more practical, obviously, because we are living a very 3D, 4D reality, yeah? And those principles, well, what I'm passionate about is applying those high consciousness principles on a very practical level. You know, that's the energy of manifestation. That's how we make manifest and ground that down and into our reality so that it's reflected there. So the weeklies are more so about applying that to the practical levels. So your messages I pick up on what I call the frequencies of the collective Geminis out there. Frequencies that are the most strongest. So that's what I connect into. They are storylines. I might pick up on multiple storylines throughout the reading. So some of your reading may resonate, bits and pieces may, or all of it may, okay? It's completely up to you, Gemini. And as I always say, take what resonates and leave the rest. Your wisdom, your inner knowing is your greatest guide. Anything outside of that is just a bonus, okay? So let's see. I know that you had the energy I was picking up on last week, and also I think for your monthly too. No, it was last week. It was more of a deeper healing focus for sure, okay? So that may still be permeating. Healing journeys do take some time sometimes. Sometimes we learn those wisdoms quickly though, alrighty? Your theme, my dear, I love this card, unconditional love. Take a look at it. I'm picking up on Geminis that are really connecting into the basis of what is most important at this time in their life, whether you are a parent or not, whether you are feeling you need your connection to your mother, whether you are feeling like you need some form of a connection to original source and nurture. Okay, the energy of unconditional love. Now, I talked about this on a post that I did on my Facebook page. There's a very big difference between the conditional love that so many of us are used to operating within in our reality compared to the possibilities and potential that unconditional love can bring. So you can really look at that as 3D and 5D concepts, Gemini, and I think it's very realistic and safe to say that it's perhaps not until we become parents that we really can connect into the genuine essence of unconditional love. It's within those frameworks, it's within those connections, and whether it's with a child or not, okay? You really can push yourself out of your perceptions and fear structures to really engage with the deeper understandings of what unconditional love can be for us. So, you know, with our children, just as an example, you may have someone in your life that you have loved unconditionally. I'm not doubting that. But, you know, I can only sort of use the parent-child relationship as an example because it's perhaps the most common reflection of that frequency of unconditional love. It's the connection where we do easily forgive transgressions. We can see the light within darkness. We can see the love underneath fear-based behaviors, yeah? It's not about allowing behaviors that are ultimately toxic to nurture, because that's what it's about. Nothing is either good or bad, but is it toxic to nurture? Is it toxic to growth ultimately? Because there's wisdom in everything. There's wisdom in every emotion, every perception, but once it starts hindering genuine growth and expansion, that's when perhaps we can use terms like toxic and words like hinder, because it's stopping something, yeah? Unconditional love in its very essence is perhaps the greatest gift of 5D, of higher consciousness love. It's loving each other, not just our children. It's finding the gift in unconditional love in all connections, and especially the connection that we have with ourselves. Now, what kind of world would we live in, Gem? What kind of world would this really truly be if we had the capacity, the strength, the power and the ability to truly unconditionally love each other? It'd be a different world, you know? What if personal relationships, intimate relationships could really reach and touch on concepts around unconditional love, so that we're not always on guard, so that we're not always protecting ourselves, so that we're not engaging in fear-based behaviors and play and mind games, and, you know, our whole consciousness experience really is the eternal choice of love or fear. And I think as we move into the age of Aquarius, and I know essentially the age of Aquarius is here, but collectively, yeah, for everyone to experience, we are starting to all experience it in many ways. The gift of Aquarius is we're moving into these higher forms and consciousness thoughts around what unconditional love can be, what the possibilities are within each of us when we really connect in to that expanded form of love, not just to self, but to each other. If we truly held each other so closely in our respect, regard, and honor, and that's what it is, it's the honor of the divine light and essence of another individual. As a parent, we see our children like that. As someone who has loved deeply, maybe you have seen someone like that. It is such a beautiful energy, and it is like, you know, with that little tiny baby, there is, I saw something written, and I really, it made me think, you know, children are so vulnerable in their innocence, is what it said. And it's true, because that's how we, in our fear, in our conditioned love, in our fear base, we do perhaps look at innocent and vulnerable individuals, children or otherwise, as being vulnerable, yeah? But what if that transparency and that authentic trust, because that's what it is, it's authentic trust that I am safe here. I feel like crying now. Because it is, it's such a beautiful, vulnerable love, you know. But what if, this is what it made me, I challenged myself to think, what if that transparency, that complete 150% faith that I am safe here, I am safe and protected, I am provided for, which is why kids tantrum, which is why babies and infants cry, because they're learning that you know, psychological connection to their environment, whether they're supported, and, you know, they very quickly learn that their cries will be responded to. And so there is this faith there that they will be heard, they will be seen, that they are safe. And maybe perhaps it's not so much vulnerability, but invulnerability, that the slings and arrows of life can't touch them, because they just have such a strong connection to faith that they are safe. When's the last time any grown-up felt like that? That's what's so beautiful. See, I told you I love this card. I think that is the gift that we can be for others. That is the gift that we can offer an individual. And I think it is so inherently important that each heart is nurtured within that form of environment where because that's where we make manifest the reality of our potential, yeah? Because so much damage can happen within the garden of nurture if an individual isn't grown within 100% safety and trust and faith. Unconditional love is calling to you this week, Gem. Despite the slings and arrows of life, we can always return to the womb of soul, to the womb of nurture, whatever that means for you. It may be an individual, it may be your faith, it may be your inner temple. There's lessons and wisdom around unconditional love here. And when we can truly see another, as a child, I believe that's when we can perhaps even engage concepts around unconditional love in connections that are not our children, that are, you know, the connections that challenge us the most. When you can, it's so easy to say you should forgive someone, or, you know, forgiveness is a strength, or whatever the case. Now, I think we have to be very realistic in our human form, that we are limited by our very human emotions, which are all learning, which are all wisdom, yeah. But if our greatest potential is to experience unconditional love with each other, not just our children, then maybe that is perhaps the gift of the age of Aquarius. We can look at love in new ways. We can look at how we've ultimately limited love to self by being conditional in our love to others. So I am you and you are me. I really love that card. Lots of communications around love. There could be words, forgiveness of transgression. You know, with all of this blue gem, a lot of throat chakra stuff. You may be even channeling words that you want to say and you perhaps have not expressed in the infancy of a connection, in the infancy of your sudden realizations about how you feel about a situation, a person, a connection, an experience. Something here needs to be nurtured, yes. There's a call to wanting to feel safe, wanting to return to what and who makes you feel safe. Let's see what the tarot wants to say. Goodness, whenever I see that card, I kick off in healing mode. I'm feeling that really strongly with you and the Geminis that I'm picking up on anyhow. Weekly read, my dear, weekly read. When I shuffle these cards anymore, it always stops when it wants to stop. Let's take a look at where that might be practically applied, and I'll see what storylines I'm picking up on. Okay, so the Death card shows up obviously when we are going through an ending of a cycle, an ending of a connection, an ending of a way of being, an ending of our perceptions of love, perhaps, and what we want and what we stand for in this life. This is deep transformation energy. It is the energy of Scorpio, yes, so think of the Phoenix rising, Gemini. Lots of communications. The Eight of Wands is incoming, like I was saying, that throat chakra stuff, yeah? Double eights, the Tower is underneath. Temperance is what's likely to happen next. The Ace of Pentacles. The Ten of Swords. The Six of Swords and the Three of Pentacles. You know, you're not going to be feeling it now, not for the Geminis that I'm picking up on immediately anyhow. However, I do see you are going through a deeply transformative time out of pain and betrayal, after a time of endings of some sort, Gem. Now, so this perhaps may be you wanting to really get back to basics when it comes to what and who feels like they nurture you the most at this stage. Okay, so return to source, return to very simplified ways of nurturing yourself this week. It's not about challenging yourself and saying, look, I need to engage, you know, unconditional love practices here, because that's not realistic. Not in, it is a beautiful ideal, yes. But I feel like I'm talking to a Gemini that needs to engage that with themselves. Unconditionally love yourself for the choices you have made, for the times you felt you have failed yourself, for the endings that are upon you. Unconditionally love yourself this week. That Katy Perry song, Is it Katy Perry? Goodness, I can't even. Unconditionally. Unconditionally. Gemini. I feel like I'm talking to a Gemini that has lost something. Lost something extremely valuable and important. Maybe a connection, maybe a love. When the Death and the Tower card shows up, it is unexpected. And if the concept of unexpected energy sort of challenges you, perhaps it's this I was not expecting to feel this so deeply. Sometimes things suddenly happen and we don't really process them straight away because we carry on. What crowns you either side? Now, you've got double eights here, okay? This is about communicating your fears first and foremost. There's a wisdom learning here for you that is infinite in its ability to truly take you to that next level of yourself and your understanding of love, faith, endings and beginnings, death and rebirth. Communicating your fears at this time, even to yourself, I think is extremely powerful in its ability to heal you and create some form around concepts about what you think you should be feeling, seeing, perceiving, because I feel like I'm picking up on Geminis that are ultimately judging themselves for not being at C when they're only at A, okay? There's a pathway here for you, and on that path there's still things for you to take with you on your journey. This feels really deep. You are retreating, you are withdrawing. This is a time of healing space for you for sure. Okay, when the Four of Swords crowns you, what is needed the most? I really don't feel like I'm talking to a like underneath all of this at the base of the deck is the Chariot, but I feel this is more of a potential of what you're moving into. The other side that I'm picking up on is I'm either speaking to a Gemini that feels like they just need to keep going to distract themselves. I don't feel that a lot, but I do want to make mention of that, like, because this is what crowns you, okay? This is what's needed at this time, Gemini, is to really go within, just to press pause on life, your responsibilities, your thoughts, where you think you should be at this stage. You know, I do want to say, in Taurus season next month, at the end of this month, you'll be approaching your 12th house transits, which is all about going deep. Before we go through our solar return, right? Before your birthday season, you'll go through your 12th house transits because the sun is in your 12th house. So it's deep. But it's also amplified by the fact that we are coming out of a 2-year ecliptical cycle of Cancer and Capricorn, which the last 2 years has probably taught you your potential of what this next stage of your life could be. You've seen glimpses and glimpses of it, right? Because it's been touching on the zodiac of Cancer. Now, the reason I make mention of this, because where you are energetically right now, as we approach Taurus season, you're approaching your 12th house energetic transits, okay? So it's going to feel deep, like you're really going into reflection mode of self before your solar return, before your birthday. But this is happening on an even bigger level with the ecliptical cycle, because in June we kick off with the Sagittarius and Gemini ecliptical cycle, which goes for 2 years. This is a powerhouse energy. So what I do want to say, if you are feeling the depths of this pain, if you are feeling the depths of this energetic clear out, go with it, Gemini. You know, touch in on keeping yourself as practical and connected as much as possible to your networks. Be practical in your approach to this healing time, because it is bloody deep. It is huge, and it's raw and real for a reason, okay? Not just because you are approaching your solar return for your birthday this year, but because you are approaching a 2-year ecliptical cycle, which is powerhouse for you. I'm a Cancer. I've just come out of a 2-year ecliptical cycle, and I can tell you now, the year before it kicked off, talk about dark night of the soul stuff, really getting raw and real. There were blessings in it too. My son was born. You know, there were blessings in it too, but it was raw and real, Gemini, and it's about getting absolutely authentic with yourself when everything falls away. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking to a Gemini that is right across the table from me, and I really need to tell you that I know a lot of people probably might look at this video, but I feel like I'm talking to one particular Gemini that is deeply struggling, because I've got a lot of heaviness here. And I'm not going to lie, this is betrayal energy, this is disappointment, this is death and rebirth, this is endings and beginnings. Not even knowing when the beginning, where the beginning is, not seeing the sunrise on the horizon. Okay? So I deeply respect and honor how that feels. And that can apply to your financial situation, that can apply to your relationship, that can apply to just how you're seeing your path and purpose, and how connected or actually disconnected you truly feel right now. So reach out, Gemini, reach out, make sure that you know that you can touch base with the little bits and pieces of what sustains you at this time, because that is important. It's not about having unrealistic high expectations about, okay, I'm going to suddenly feel great tomorrow. It's not like that. We have to be very practical. We have to truly engage with those who nurture us, what nurtures us, you know, and sometimes just for today, just for this time, just for me, today I need to deeply cry and I don't even know why. And I'm going to go watch a whole bunch of sad stuff on TV, movies. I'm going to listen to sad music, because we just need to energetically get that out, because that's a freeing, that's a lifting, yeah? And a few days after that, you might start to feel the energy pick up again. You might sleep for a day. You might, whatever the case may be, Gemini. And it's important during that whole cycle to truly reach out to whoever makes you feel safe, so that you can communicate your deeper needs at this time. I'm not going to lie, I feel like crying. So this is spiritually healing time. You are really putting the pieces back together in many ways. The pieces of you. You know, you might be going back, something might have triggered here. A wound that was opened in childhood. A wound that was never closed fully. You are really putting the pieces back together. This is what this situation means for you. Okay, and I know you're not going to be feeling this energy, because it's almost like, I feel like saying WTF, because what the hell is the Ace of Pentacles doing in my reading when I'm feeling all this heavy energy, yeah? There is a gift here. There is something tangible that you can take with you. An ending has happened for a reason, perhaps for the gift it has given you, perhaps for the lessons it has taught you about who you are. You know, the Ace of Pentacles is a gift, because it, like I said, it's it can teach you so much about yourself. This whole situation can teach you so much about yourself. There's a gift here, something tangible that you can take with you on your journey. There's something tangible here that wants to make itself known to you. It's something to kick off the new chapter, okay? It's like a nest egg energy. Now, it might be news where, you know, if you are struggling financially, you could very well get some really good news. You know, within the next 8 days is actually what I want to say. In the next 3 to 8 days, you might hear news of a shift, okay? A new job, a new opportunity. I do also want to say the energy I'm picking up from this card is there are Geminis out there who thought that what they had, the situation, the connection, the experience they were having that ultimately ended, they thought it was this. They thought it was long-lasting, something that would, something they could fully commit to, something, because this is the marriage card as well. The Ace of Pentacles is the dowry card. You know, it's a future full of possibilities as we walk through the Garden of Eden. You know, where does that take us? It can take, we've got this, so it can really take us anywhere. And I feel that's where this deep pain and hurt, you know, maybe you're leaving a marriage, maybe you're leaving a connection, maybe a connection has ended. Because after this time, I've got this here. The Six of Swords is about traveling away from old plans, old visions, old hopes. But there is something you take with you of value. You know, every time we choose to trust, Gemini, every time we choose to love, that's the gift. gift, yeah? Despite what happens, despite how that journey pans out, every time we choose to engage the choice of opening our hearts again, opening our hearts to trust, perceiving ourselves in a highest view that we do deserve love, we do deserve to feel connection and experience it for all its joys, you know. Every time we do that, Gemini, that is the act of unconditional love for self. There is no wrongdoing in that. There is no failure in that. Regardless of how the situation turns out, I feel like crying. This has been the most emotional reading I have done in the last 3 weeks. Good golly gosh. For anyone I've done a reading for, you know that I'm in tears with you when I'm doing a reading. I didn't think the videos would be like this. Every time you have chosen love, I don't even know if I want to post this. Every time you have chosen love, Gemini, you have chosen to unconditionally love yourself. You have chosen to have faith in who you are and what you are worth and what you have to give. Even if what you have to give has been taken away from you or wasn't received in the past, every time, my God, I feel like crying. Every time you have chosen to love, that is your gift. That's your tangible gift that you take with you. Because that's what unconditional love is, yeah? It's not... Love is not about what we get. Because our material world is about what we get, yeah? Our whole world, power versus empowerment. This has been my big thing for the last 2 weeks. It's actually what is permeating out there in the collective. It's the energy, the way I see frequencies, the way I see numbers, the way I feel things. We're all got this collective energy right now as we come out of this old Piscean energy into the age of Aquarius, as we all ascend, because we are all awakening. Love is not power. It's not power over another. It's not about trying to take control of and manipulate. It is love is unconditional. That is love, you know. Whether we've had the opportunity to truly experience what unconditional love feels like, we have the capacity. Each of us has the capacity within us to do so, to experience it, to choose it. And it starts with self, and perhaps it only ever stays with self. Perhaps every time we choose to trust, every time we choose to try again, every time we choose to open up and give what we have, as little as that feels like, that's love. That is unconditional love. And it does something to us, yeah? It doesn't just shift our perceptions. It deeply transforms us at the core. It activates us on an awakening journey to higher views of ourselves, of others. And then if we can truly look back on the pains of our past and forgive all transgressions, that is the gift. It's not about trying to do it from that pathway. It's not about perhaps trying to forgive another and unconditionally love them. It has to start in here, so that alchemy spreads across the timeline. So when you have transformed from the inside out, it is then that you can safely look back at anything that has happened in the past, and that you can actually really activate that and see your past from a whole new way. So, wow, Gemini, this feels like a healing. And I'm going to be doing some soul healing readings today too, so maybe I'm connecting in. This is my little way of connecting into authentic healing energy. What you have underneath all this, you are traveling in the right direction, even if it doesn't feel like it at this point. Even if it doesn't feel like it right now. And I want to promise you the next 2 years of your experience, all of this is of purpose to truly plant within you something that will germinate, and it's actually very, very tangible. It's something quite practical. This is your gift, okay? And this healing you're going through, you will always cross paths with people that will need to hear your message, your learning, your wisdom of what you've learnt on this journey. You will pass this on as a gift to others in some form. You will pass it on to your next experience. You will pass it on to your children, to other people that you connect to, you know. Because what you're walking into as an outcome is the 3 of Coins. You can start all over again when you're ready. Big week, love. Goodness gracious. The Chariot, the Emperor, the Hanged Man, the Five of Coins, the Magician, the Ten of Cups. This is the wisdom walk through the realms of love and how love ultimately turns conditional to unconditional. This is the gift. I hope this has helped in some way. See you next week.